I want to give you some little clues about how you can do that in your life even today. And one of the things we have to remember is that we were created in God's image. But somehow the evil and sin of this world has deformed God's image within us, so we leave paradise. But if only we could restore that rightful understanding of God's image, paradise would return to us and we to it. Let's have a look at how we lost the garden, and that will help us to understand how we can have it restored to us. There are many theological ways to understand the fall of humankind. It would take a lifetime to begin explaining them. I'm going to focus on one little part of the fall of humankind today. The attitude of the man Adam towards his companion Eve with respect to the fall. And those of you who know a little bit about Scripture know what I am talking about. When Adam was confronted by God, saying, "You have eaten of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why did you do it?" I hear some laughter before I even say the punchline, because you know, Adam says to God, "That woman made me do it." And for all eternity since then, men have been saying, "That woman made me do it." Now, you're laughing. That's good. It's good because you've come to the point where you recognize that's a joke. That's really funny. But I have to tell you, when the guy wrote that, and you can be pretty sure it was a guy, he wasn't writing a joke. He was dead serious. And he was projecting the idea that men were upright and righteous and divine. They were created in God's image. Women were not made in God's image. They were made in the broken image of the man. And to the author of that story, women did not have souls. Women were not living spirits. Men were living spirits who would one day join with God. Women were not. Women were created so that men could have companionship and so that the human race could be perpetuated. They were not spirits. That's really serious. Once you take the feminine out of your image of what humankind is, or you take the feminine out of your image of who God is, you lose 50% of all that we could be in this world. And since that time, since the first time a man said, "Women don't count," we have continued to deny the feminine aspect of God. Now be careful. I'm not here today to tell you that God is female. I am not here to urge you to worship God as the goddess, which some people would do. To worship God as female or as goddess is as misguided as to worship God solely as masculine. We only want to fill out your understanding of the image of God. I also want to point out that as a result of that first step, removing any sense of the feminine aspect of God has led us in the church to an intentional removal of the role of the feminine in the building of the church and of God's kingdom over the entire course of Christendom. And we're going to fix that. Because when you do those two things, you are left with an image of God as an old man. That's not adequate. That's not enough to convey all the wonder and all the power of who and what God truly is. I want to change that by looking at Scripture. You've all looked at Scripture. You may all have read these passages, but because of the way that your brain is conditioned, you have read them. They've been on the page in black